Okay, thank you all for your patience there. Welcome, welcome. And we are starting a half hour. We will be recording this so you can watch it again later. We're really happy to have everyone here. And I just want to start off saying welcome to Find Your Story Arc Scenes. This is a really exciting session because what we're going to be focusing on is really seeing what it is that makes your story great and what helps you know that you've got a story. I'm going to jump right in by asking everyone to put in the word of our community. And I actually look, I haven't glanced yet, but I see some hellos and I see the word. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, kindness is the word of our community. Kindness. What does that mean? Well, for me, the really important part of kindness in our community is that we are giving kindness to each other. And so it makes it a safe place to take risks and do things that you might not normally do. It's a kindness that we give to each other as well in the honest feedback that we give back and the way that we give it back in a kind manner so that people can hear it and really know. One of the other kindnesses about a lot of the feedback and things that we do and the editing that we do is that it's actionable. And that means that when you get objective, actionable feedback, that's something that just makes you want to grow and change and take on those ideas, and also gives you the freedom to accept them or reject them, whatever works best for your story. Kindness to yourself, recognizing that you have this great story and you've got this gift and you've been giving this to others as well. So taking that kindness and just celebrating. That's one of the great things about our community as well, is the celebration, not only sharing your celebrations, but also celebrating with everyone else. With every small step that we take in becoming better, um, it helps our community. Kristina's probably going to cut that all out. I just wanted to say it all because that's really important to me. So, find your story arc scenes. Welcome to our session for today. Who am I? Well, I am Lisa Taylor. I am a Fictionary certified story coach editor. I'm a Fictionary Live certified instructor, which is really important to me because it means that I'm meeting with everyone and I'm learning every single day that I'm teaching more and more about story. I'm an editor for a small publishing company near my home. And I'm also co-authoring Secrets to Writing a Mystery with Kristina right now. And we have along with us today Linda O'Donnell, who is writing and has written and is going to soon publish Secrets to Writing a Romance, which is going to be a very exciting addition to all of our series. So we're very excited about that. Today, we're going to be jumping into the story arc scenes, and I just want to point out two of the books that are on here. We're going to be looking at Secrets to Editing Success. That's a great background for you if you're working with a draft already, and Secrets to Outlining a Novel, which is a really great support if you have some more questions or want to go into more depth. And I can't wait. So let's jump in. There are 5 in To create this great story. There are 5 must-have scenes in your story, and this is well researched and fits within a lot of other of the systems that you may have seen. What I love about the Fictionary 5 story arc scenes are that they really give you the backbone of any genre, and you're able to use these 5 story arc scenes to build a great story. What makes it great? Well, I'm going to show you why each of these scenes is so important and how to figure out which one's yours. We've got the inciting incident, plot point 1, the middle plot point 2, and the climax scene. And from there, you're going to build, that's going to give you the base of everything that you need. Okay, let's talk about this shakeup. So the inciting incident, we're going to talk about these in the order that they would appear in your book. Now, if you're thinking of outlining a book, you might want to go about it in a slightly different way. And that's suggested in the How to Outline Your Novel. If you're going through and you're looking at where these are in your story and you've already got a story, you're going to be thinking about what scene does this in my book right now? And as you go along, one of the things that we use, I'm going to talk about later, is the skeleton blurb to really help us see how these connect with our story that we want to tell. Okay, first one is the inciting incident. I'm going to stop for a second and answer a question. These slides will be on the recording. They won't be attached to the recording separately. I think what you're going to find, though, is that you're not going to need them because you've got everything that you need as you're listening, and you'll know which ones are yours. Inciting incident. Okay, what is the inciting incident? Well, that's so easy. It's something that happens that disrupts the protagonist's ordinary world, something that shakes it up. Why is it there? Well, if there's no change to the ordinary world, then there's no story, right? Something has to happen to make the protagonist head on to this story. What it's going to be, we don't know yet. Sometimes, what I love about the inciting incident is that sometimes the protagonist may not recognize it as an inciting incident, but the author, the writer, knows what that incident is. So that's what we're talking about. You know in your book where that inciting incident is. And we're going to use some examples today just to quickly give you an idea. I apologize in advance. There will be spoilers. First off, in Fourth Wing. So this is the moment that the ordinary world has changed. In Fourth Wing, it happens before the story starts. So that shows you your inciting incident doesn't have to be a scene. It can happen before the story starts. What happens is Violet's mother orders her to the Rider's Quadrant. She was always going to be a scribe. If this doesn't happen, if this inciting incident doesn't happen, she stays in the scribe quadrant and she lives her life and there's no story. In The Duke and I, which is the first of the Bridgerton series, Simon and Daphne meet at a ball. It's a romance. There's the meet cute. It happens in the book. We actually get to see it. If they don't meet, there's no story. So Daphne and Simon meet when Daphne's getting accosted by a suitor and they end up alone in the courtyard. So there's all the makings of this start to their romance. The second of the 5 story arc scenes. Accept the story goal. Plot point 1. This is the scene where the protagonist accepts the story goal in the skeleton blurb. This is where they say, yes, this is something I will pursue. I am going to do it. I want this. It is important. Why do we have it? Well, if they don't accept the story goal, then there will not be any story. So they have to accept it. Let's look at what that looks like. Well, again, with Fourth Wing, Violet has to use her intelligence to survive the Rider's Quadrant, otherwise she's going to die. That's our skeleton blurb, and she accepts this in the scene where she beats an opponent on the mat. So there's a contest, and she uses poison to weaken them, but she doesn't kill them, but she just wins the mat. So this means that she's going to survive another day. And so she's decided, I'm going to survive and I will use my intelligence to do it. Yes. So she's accepted the story goal. For the Duke and I, well, we've got this opportunity. Simon offers Daphne a fake dating relationship to avoid other suitors. So this will take care of all the issues that she has with other suitors because they're going to pretend that they're dating. This time we have the skeleton blurb is Daphne must show Simon that he's worthy of a full family life. Otherwise, she won't find true love. She won't get her happily ever after with Simon. So she has to get him to believe in his right to have a full family life. And that wouldn't get started if she doesn't at first accept this crazy fake dating relationship where it's setting them up so that it's the two of them that are in this fake relationship, but now she'll have a chance to show him and see him in the light of what value he brings for as himself to having a family and why he should. So the romance starts. Once they've announced this, they can't go back. They're in this fake dating relationship. Then we get to the middle plot point. And there have been entire books written about this, about writing from the middle. The middle plot point does this incredibly important thing. Not only is it the middle of your book or close to the middle of your book, but it's this moment where your protagonist has the recognition that they're going to have to actively go after the story goal. No more just getting it the easy way. It's not going to be a breeze to get this. With the middle plot point, it's the time when they say, not only do I accept this story goal, but I want this story goal. I will do what it takes to get to this story goal. They're committing to taking action to get there. Well, why is this important? Well, you can't get to that final climax if you haven't got a protagonist that is actively driving the story. And that's why this second part from the middle plot point on gets so exciting. Whether it's a high action story or a love story, this is the moment where we start to follow the protagonist as they're taking those moves, as they're making the moves that they believe are going to be the strongest and best to get them there. And we love watching that. So, what happens in Fourth Wing? Again, we're talking about the external story goal for this case. And in this case, Violet poisons Jack during a match and wins the match. Now, this is so important because it teaches Violet that she's willing to take such a chance, right? It's a false victory, though, because Jack, she doesn't kill him, and so he comes back and will try and kill her. He is more determined. So she feels like she's in a win, but it's a false win because he's going to come back and try and really hurt her. The other thing that happens in this is that she wanted to prove that she could take care of herself. It's really that proactive, needing to take care of herself and be strong enough by herself. So she makes sure that Xaden cannot help her in that scene. So it's giving us two aspects of this. It's showing that she wins against an opponent who is going to want to kill her later. So that's actually setting up some danger for her in the future. It also shows us this moment where she feels that she's strong enough to stand on her own. She can stand on her own, but that's the lesson that she's going to need to learn through this, is that she can't get to the climax by herself. So that's why it's a false victory. What about Duke and I? Well, right before the middle plot point, right before the midpoint is the first kiss. How sweet is that? But it also causes the duel, which changes the direction of their story. They have to get married. Okay, this is a massive change for the story because this is setting it up that now it's not a fake dating relationship. Now it's actually a marriage. They must get married and they've had their first kiss. So we've really seen this very change in everything. And it's Daphne saving Simon from the duel. that's so important to that, because that's her taking action to make sure that her man survives, that she gets through. It's her brothers that are in this duel with Simon as well. So that's kind of a whole family aspect of it as well. And then we get to the lowest point, plot point 2. This is that dark night of the soul. How do we get there? What is it? The protagonist is at the lowest point in the story. There's another aspect to this plot point too, which is that there's an integral piece of information, either about the character or external, that is going to help them in the climax. That also happens in this plot point too. Everything that they've done has driven them to this low point. You can see how this really makes a strong story, because we've had this moment where they've stepped forward in the middle plot point and said, I am going to go after this with all that I have. And after everything that they have, with their flawed knowledge and their growing understanding of themselves and the story goal, they get to the point where they really have a deep understanding of the story goal, how important it is, but also understand that they may not get there. They might not reach it. And the reader has to be unsure whether the protagonist can achieve this story goal. How do you get someone to that low, low point? Well, in Fourth Wing, Violet uses the golden dragon's power to stop time. So she uses dragon power to save her friend. And she uses lightning to kill a person, to kill Jack. So she actually kills Jack in plot point 2. She actually kills someone. She learns that her power is lightning. And if she doesn't learn how to control it, she will just randomly keep killing people. If she doesn't kill Jack, then he's going to kill her and the story would be over. So she learns about her signet. She learns that she has connection to the dragon's abilities, and she learns that she can kill if she has to. And all of those things are really important to getting to the climax. She's saved her friend, but she's killed someone. You can see how this is a low point for her. In The Duke and I, Daphne's abandoned in her husband's ancestral home because he can't commit to the relationship. So it gets down to that point where she's lost, her husband's left, she has to decide what she wants to do, and she actually leaves and goes to London. So there's a massive separation. In romance, it's the breakup. How significant is this breakup when he leaves the ancestral home and then she leaves the ancestral home, so that they're both away? They've broken apart completely and utterly, and we wonder if they'll ever be able to get back together. Well, in your story, you've gotten now to the climax. This is the moment where you address the story goal. The protagonist can achieve, or they may not achieve the story goal. But either way, the importance of this, the why of this, is that it ensures the reader satisfied. The story has ended. We know, whether for good or for bad, that the protagonist has gotten their answer to the story goal, and the reader gets that satisfaction, that feeling of completion. So what does that look like in Fourth Wing? Well, Violet and Xaden and their team win the battle. They kill the venom to protect the dragon. Liam dies. Violet discovers that when the venom dies, so do all of their little wyvern as well. And that's a piece of intelligence that knowledge that she's going to need in book 2. This is a series. And she's achieved her story goal, though, of surviving the Writer's Quadrant. She literally has done exactly what she needs to do. She has survived the year. In The Duke and I, well, remember, they got married quite early in this story. So the happily ever after isn't getting married. The happily ever after isn't their first kiss. They've had that already. For Daphne and Simon, this is so much more significant in their relationship in this story, because in this climax, Daphne and Simon proclaim their love for each other. So this is so important for this development of this relationship, right? It's not about getting married. It's not about the first kiss for them. It's about that final proclamation of their love for each other. Okay, so let's talk placements of these story arc scenes. Now, in the Fictionary app, you'll see that it offers you sort of what is the ideal. We don't want to, it doesn't have to be perfect, and you'll notice that this is quite a wide range. Remember, the inciting incident for Fourth Wing, that happened before the story even started. So for the inciting incident, we're looking at that happening up to about 15%. Plot point 1, somewhere between 20 and 30%. The middle plot point, obviously close to the middle, so somewhere between 45 and 55% in your story. Plot point 2, it's up there, right? It's getting close to the end. We're looking at 70 to 80%. And then your climax, coming in between 85 and 95. But again, it depends on your story. And you want to make sure that there's enough resolution that any subplots that you have are tied up and we know what's happening with people. The reader feels satisfied. But these are just the general percentages, and you'll see how beautiful and strong that story arc looks. Now, this has come out of a lot of research, and so we are really happy to know how strong that is to help your story really drive through and keep that pacing up that you need. Well, how do you get there? Within your app, there are some examples. If you go onto your bookshelf, you can go over to examples, and we're going to take a peek at an example of a story arc scene that is at a draft level. Not everything has to be perfect right from the beginning. And so look at this one. We see that the inciting incident, it happens quickly, but I think, that's still fine if this is one of those stories. And if you look at the fact that this inciting incident starts quickly and the climax seems what we would say, maybe a little late, is it though? We're used to a story here where it starts quickly and maybe it ends quickly. We can look at that later. The big issue is right here where plot point 1 is quite late. So what does that mean for your story? Well, what it means is that this is a long way from the point where the world was shaken up to the point where they actually accept the story goal. To add to the pacing, it would help the story to move the plot point earlier. As you're revising and as you're setting up your revision plan, you can decide where you want to put that plot point so that you can move it to a spot where it actually has more power. That might mean taking out sections that aren't needed. There are lots of ways that this can happen. But the great thing about this, that I love about the story arc in the app, is that as you make the changes, you will see that change and become stronger. If you want to, you can actually also use, I'm going to pop right in here. I'm in a different one. If you're outlining, you can go right into here and you can outline your story using the universal, or the fantasy or romance. But let's just look at the universal right now. So the universal outline is already there in the app. You just name your, I think I may have already named something stuff. Nope, we're okay. And it's set up already. Oh, I hope I'm not going too quickly. So I name my project. And when I come in, already the inciting incident is there, plot point 1, but even better, if I go into the notes and I can't remember what it is that needs to go into a plot point 1, I already have plot point 1 in here, plus some examples that you can look at to give you some ideas as you're going through. So that's just something that's there in the app for you to use if you decide to use it. So, quick review of the ones we've gone through. So we've got the inciting incident in Fourth Wing that starts before. We've got Violet's mother orders her into the rider's quadrants. At plot point 1, she beats her first opponent using her intelligence, using the poison to weaken them. At the middle plot point, when she has to take action, she poisons Jack and beats him. She doesn't kill him, but she also takes action because she makes sure that she has to win on her own with no other help. So that's her trying to show that she's strong enough to survive the rider's quadrant. In plot point 2, her lowest point, she kills Jack. That killing someone, she gains a lot of knowledge, but she's also realizes that she doesn't have any control over her signet. And then in the climax, she and her team together win the battle. She's learned how to use her intelligence to survive, but also how important it is to work with other people to get there. In The Duke and I, we have the wonderful romance ones. So they meet at the ball. In plot point 1, they agree to the fake dating plan. In the middle plot point, Daphne saves Simon from the duel. Plot point 2, lowest, she's abandoned by Simon. She goes back to her family. It looks like all is lost. But then, of course, they get to the happily ever after, which for Simon and Daphne is proclaiming their love, even with her brothers barging into the house. So, do you have a story? Do you have an inciting incident where everything's shaken out? Plot point 1, where they accept the story goal. Middle plot point, where they decide that they want it so badly and they're going to go for it. Plot point 2, where they lose, they've tried everything and they're not sure they can get it, even though it's so desperate, they still desperately, desperately want it. And then finally, the climax where the reader gets to find out whether they achieve or do not achieve their goal. Okay, that was a lot very quickly. We have a lot of books coming out. I'm going to switch off. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to look at some questions. If anyone has any questions, I know that was awfully quick. I'm going to keep the recording rolling. I can promise you we will edit out you if you come off mute, if you want to ask a question. Otherwise, if you can point me to a question in the chat, I will answer everything that I can before we go anywhere. Okay. Okay, so did everyone follow the how to get to the outline? Do you want anything for that? Oh, that's a great question. Okay, I've just had a question about, does it work with picture books too? This is set up for within the app, you're really looking at for a whole draft. I can't remember what the minimum is now that people have tried, but it's for a full book. Does it work with picture books? Absolutely. This 5 story arc scenes does, because think about how this shows an actual story. Forget about everything else. What's a picture book I can think of? It works with fairy tales, right? So if it works with fairy tales, it's got to work with a picture book. You've got the moment where the world is shaken up. So trying to think what stories I know off the top of my head. I I need Krista to come on. Krista knows all of this stuff. Um, Krista, it works with your book, right? You don't have to come off mute. It's working with your book, and yours is a children's book at least. I'm feeling like I'm not a very good children's author right now. Yeah, it works with everything. This is actually truly universal. I'm going to give you an example of a quick story. Let's just make one up here. So, um, boy and a girl in a sandbox playing outside suddenly hear a loud noise. The loud noise is the inciting incident. What is the loud noise? What's going to happen? What's happening is a park is being built just beyond their fence. So there's a whole bunch of big machinery and everything else. The skeleton blurb for this story is um, Joe and Sam. Joe and Sam must become construction workers. Otherwise, they won't have happy lives. It's a very, very sad story. Okay. So they're sitting in their little, this is a children's book. They're sitting in their little place and they're hearing noises and they look through the fence and they see all this big equipment. And so that's their inciting incident. They decide plot point 1 is when they accept the story goal. So how can they get to the point where they want to, so they're going to watch the construction for a little while. That's their ordinary life. And then they're going to go over and take lemonade to the construction workers. And they're going to, at that moment, they're going to decide they're going to get to ride in the construction stuff and get really excited. And they want to be construction workers, but they are only 5 years old. So they've got a ways to go. So what do they have to do to get there? Well, we have to get to the middle plot point. And the middle plot point is when they start to become proactive. Well, they're little children to start off with. So their proactive thing that they're going to do is they are going to start building in their sandbox. Now, instead of just what's happening out in the backyard, they are now actively building things in their backyard and they're going to create something else big in their backyard. They're doing all of this, but they're still too little to become construction workers. So, really, what they have to do is grow up. So, in plot point 2, they realize it's got to be the all is lost moment. They're just too young. It's never going to happen. They go off. They have to go to kindergarten and they're very disappointed about the whole thing. Life is horrible. And we're going to flash forward, yes, because it's the fastest children's book ever, to the climax where we see the two of them at a opening of a playground that they have just helped build because now they're both construction workers in their lives. There we go. I have fast forwarded them quite a little bit. If you were thinking about a fairy tale, you could think of, I'm trying to think of Cinderella. She starts off, her world's all shaken up because, she's got this crazy stepmother and stepsisters and everybody's, that's her ordinary life, pretty horrible. Then boom, invitation to the ball. Everybody's allowed to go. Seems like that's going to be everything, but it isn't enough. No, no, no. In plot point one, that's when she accepts the story goal. So she's like, okay, I can go. And she gets all the little mice to help her build stuff. And then the fairy godmother comes and gives her a ride to the castle, and everything's beautiful. She gets to the middle plot point. She actually accepts the dancing with the prince. Fairy tales are, I'm suddenly wondering about fairy tales in a lot of deep ways. So she accepts dancing with the prince. She's having a good time. And she realizes, right? Clock strikes 12. She has something to do. Boom. Really bad moment. She falls apart. Everything falls apart. She has to run away. He's only got a slipper. He's very sad. She's back home in her horrible world, realizing that nothing's going to happen. Then she discovers the prince looking for her. She doesn't know what to do. It's really negative. But then her foot fits into the slipper. Climax. She gets her happy ending. Really not. I'm hoping we're going to cut out the. I'm suddenly realizing how very sad some of our fairy tales were as we were growing up. I think we've got much better stories. Okay, and yes, I'm going to stop recording now, and then we can just have some fun. I hope I